113 and 13. Steady go on 50 and 90 in and out of Ocean City. 589 good through Ocean Pines. 113 from Bishopville to Berlin, Newark, Snow Hill, and Pocomoke moving along. Good in Wycomico County on 50 from Willage to Pittsville to Walston Switch Road and Hobbs Road. Business 50 and Business 13 in town good. Bypass around Salisbury moving through. Big picture. Route 50 looking all right out to the Bay Bridge. That's your traffic for the Voice Radio Network.
Leo Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. It's Bill and Jessica. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much for sharing your platform.
Right. No, absolutely, man. Look, our prayers and, prayers are with you. We're all the same. Just want to, just let you know that, your story is very, I guess touching is the word.
Yeah,
I mean, just unbelievable. And I guess what you're doing, trying to raise awareness and, being the activist that you're doing, you're doing great work. So,
thank you so much.
Man,
appreciate that.
It's just unbelievable. You don't want to believe that it's true. Just, reading your story and what happened. For people who don't know, Leon Ford mistaken for a criminal, shot 5 times. Oh, no. Leaving you paralyzed. Wow. Do you want to, it happened in Pittsburgh. You want to go over, can you kind of give us like a brief, background of exactly, what happened and, kind of like the short version of your story for people who, haven't heard it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I was 19 years old, November 11th, 2012, I was driving to my grandmother's house for Sunday dinner when I was pulled over by 2 Pittsburgh police officers. I provided my driver's license, registration, and car insurance. And yet they told me that I was lying about my identity and I was someone else named Lamont Ford, not Leon Ford. And so for over 20 minutes, these officers interrogated me, threatened me, and really, instilled fear into me. They decided to go hands-on and try to pull me out of the car. I panicked and, out of fear, tried to drive off. And one of the officers jumped inside my vehicle, shooting me 5 times point-blank range. I was shot once in my neck, twice in my chest, once in my arm, and once in my hip. And
Wow.
One of the bullets that went in my chest actually hit my spinal cord and paralyzed me from the waist down.
So you're Leon Ford, the person they were looking for. What was his name?
Lamont Ford.
Lamont Ford. Now, what are the odds of that? Isn't that just unbelievable? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, just how this all. What were they looking for him for? What was the whole like? Do you? Yeah, I mean, I know you know. I'm sure you know.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because when we finally made it to trial, we found out that Lamont Ford actually didn't even have a warrant for his arrest. And these officers on their shift from 3 to 11, I was shot around 9 p.m. So from 3 to 9, these officers ran over 450 plates. And they said that they were just, looking to see, because 400 people apparently looked suspicious to them.
Wow. That's just, but I mean, what and what was the whole point of pulling out a gun and jumping in the car? Like, I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out too. Like, are they even allowed to jump in the car like that? Like, what was the excuse or what was the whole reasoning of that?
Yeah, so the officers said they thought I had a gun, which I didn't have any weapons at all, no drugs or anything, and they violated several general orders. And so, yeah, they were not supposed to jump inside the vehicle.
Wow. So what was the outcome of the trial once, everything was over? Were the officers, let go and, obviously, I mean, I don't know, arrested? What was the outcome?
Well, the first outcome was I was acquitted because after I was shot and paralyzed, I was also charged and I was facing up to 20 years in prison. And so my first trial, I was acquitted, which I was extremely, grateful for. And then, I obviously, had a civil suit against the city, but we had a hung jury. and then, we ended up settling out of court.
You were charged
And
with
the
what?
officers are
What
still
were you
working.
charged with?
3 counts of aggravated assault, escape, resisting arrest, and a few other charges that they just added on.
So you were a mistaken identity, is what they, so that they had the wrong person, paralyzed you, and you still had charges.
Yes, sir.
Do they still work on the force?
Yes.
I was getting ready to say
actually
they
met-
better not. I mean, they are. And you're saying they are?
They are. Yep. Still Pittsburgh police officers.
What? How is this even real?
Man, it's this is why I encourage people to get involved, because our district attorney never filed charges against the officers, and district attorney's an elected official, and so
Wow.
when people get more involved, politically and engaged, that's why voting locally is so important. Our
Yeah.
district attorney here in Pittsburgh, Stephen Zappala, is actually supported by the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, and so it's a lot less likely that he would file charges against a police officer. When Antoine Rose was murdered, however, he did file charges, and I believe that public, we put a lot of pressure on him to file those charges. Which when I was shot in 2012. It was just a different era, It was kind of like pre-Black Lives Matter, and I believe public opinion shifted a lot since then.
So you're paralyzed for life. You were shot 5 times because someone thought you were someone else, and you still got charges. Obviously, you were acquitted, but you still got charges, and the people who did it are still employed by and still are able to continue on. And even though you're acquitted, you can't walk, but they're going on like nothing.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I just had to say that out loud because I didn't believe it. God bless you, man. I mean, look,
You're a miracle.
you are a miracle. Yeah, I
Thank you.
don't know what else to say. Sometimes you just got to say it to actually. You hear how ridiculous it sounds. It's crazy. You have a memoir coming up, An Unspeakable Hope, Brutality, Forgiveness, and Building a Better Future for Your Son. Talk to us about it. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about your nonprofit. It's called Heal America, which seeks to bridge the gap between police and communities. Give us a rundown, man.
Yeah, so an unspeakable hope is just that. We just, went over my story and what I've been through.
Yeah.
And I'm offering up, my story in a very hopeful way where I share, the painful moments, but also the healing moments, the moments of forgiveness, and also the leadership, that, the path that I took to build a better future for my son. So a lot of people, ask, like, how did you forgive, and why did you decide to make some of these decisions afterward? Why weren't you angry? And the fact is, I was very angry,
Right.
and I used that anger to fuel me, in a positive way, to leave a legacy for my son. And people would ask me all the time, how am I preparing my son for the world? Well, there's so many parents who are preparing their, children, for the world, black parents who are having to talk with their sons. And my mom had to talk with me, and that wasn't good enough to prevent me from being shot. Mm-hmm. And so now I say to myself, I'm not only preparing my son for the world, I'm preparing the world for my son. And I do this by, training police officers, building relationships with, my local government and the police department, activists and business leaders, so we could work together to collaborate to make a safer community for everybody's children. And so that's where, my foundation came to play. After George Floyd was murdered, I had one on a rant on Twitter, and I called the mayor at the time and the chief at the time racist. and said they didn't care about black people because their press conference really triggered me.
Right.
And then one of my mentors reached out to me, and she's an attorney here in Pittsburgh, and she asked me if I ever sat down with the chief. And at that time, I had not, and she facilitated a meeting between the two of us, and we were very, honest and transparent, and we shared our stories, and we developed a bond. And out of that, relationship was birthed my foundation, which is the HERE Foundation, and we were able to pull together so many local leaders, from activists, from police officers, from judges, from the president of the community college, the president of a bank, all these different people who were really inspired by our friendship and our willingness to help our city heal. And we're doing great work. On May 18th, we'll be announcing our grant-making cycle. We're giving away $200,000 across 15 different, leaders and organizations who are doing amazing work here in Pittsburgh, and it's really inspiring.
Wow, I mean, your story really moves us, man. I mean, it's just something that you've been through, and what you've done and how you've overcome and been able to now turn this into a positive is just, not many people could do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of people
And
would
forgiveness.
still be angry,
Yep.
and I mean, what you've done is just amazing. Award-winning entrepreneur, author, speaker, community organizer, activist. It's just something else, man. Look, so again, we're with you. We stand with you. Like I said, God bless you, man, for everything that you've been through. If people want to pick up your memoir, again, An Unspeakable Hope, Brutality, Forgiveness, and Building a Better Future for My Son, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the memoir is on, in Barnes & Noble, on Amazon, and BAM, and stuff. You just, Google my name, Leon Ford, or type in Leon Ford on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and Unspeakable Hope, it'll pop right up. My website is leonfordspeaks.com, and I'm Leon Ford Speaks across Instagram and Twitter.
Wow, you're a good person, man. And like we said, we're with you. So we appreciate you checking in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, you have a great day.
All righty, you too.
Power 101.7 and the